Hey, howdy everyone, Lost Leader here, back at it again for more Force of Wheel Attraction. That's right, I got another deck to show y'all. And this one I'm actually particularly happy about because it features my girl Reiya, for one. As you can see, she doesn't really clear up so well. And she uses the mystery counters and all that such and such. And this is also a very budgeted deck. It really is. And I just love the bejeebus out of it. And any cards that you see that are just kind of like a singular card, that means I have 4 of them in the deck. Everything else, not so much in terms of the deck. This deck is really inexpensive. And for my Magic Stones, I just have 1 Water, 1 Darkness Magic Stone. And then 4 of each of these. So I still need to get some of the special Magic Stones in order to like make the Magic Stone deck a little bit better, more consistent. But for the most part, this is what I have going for myself right here for the Magic Stone deck. Let's get on to the actual strategy of the deck, shall we? So the reason why it's called Reiya Mystery Buff is literally this little combo right here. This is going to be your win condition, your end game, and anything in between, because what else are you going to do with the mystery counters? Use them? Shoot. I mean, you could, but still. My point being here is the reason why we have water today. Flute's Water Dragon. Oh, it's so nice to have, and it's such a good card, and just, honestly, look how cute it is. Not to mention that it gets flying later on down the road, which pretty much makes all Resonators except for 2 of them flying, which gets really weird because you can just swarm their playfield with flying. But you're not using it for the seal condition. No one ever does. You use it for this condition. You may rest this recovered card to call a Magic Stone, rather than rest your J-Roller. That's the one you want, that's the one you need, so you can produce more mystery counters. And if you have more mystery counters, that means you can use more of the mystery counter cards. Or, alternatively, buff this little boy. This one I've beefed so much before, it gets ridiculous that this bat, what it does. And the first thing I saw it, I was just like, this is a deck. This is a deck you can make right here. And it really is. It's a really good card. This card gains plus 200, plus 0 for each mystery counter on your J-Roller. Now with the new Reiya counter system going on to play with the Wingdings unlocked, because apparently you put 2 more counters on it, so it's either 3 or 2, I don't know which one. But either way, this thing gets a heavier start than it did last time, with the Wingdings not unlocked, with the new latest set coming into play after the King, I believe. But this was made before that, and it was made in mind for you beefing up your Reiya with mystery counters as much as possible. Of course, you could alternatively just go ahead and ramp it up and just Judgment all you want. And then just get the 3 mystery counters that you get right then and there. And then you can remove mystery counter from this card and destroy a target Resonator. So Reiya, in fact, can be your end game if you really wanted her to. I've had her actually win some matches for me as soon as this guy I started cleaning up. Pretty much you want to start swinging with him as soon as you get to 1,000 or more, which really is not as hard as you'd think with this deck. It's really not, but you will face some adversity to this deck for sure, and it still has its few problems and whatnot, but for the most part, it's run pretty well in my local scene, so I'm not sure how well it'll do in like actual combat with the Fox and whatnot, but for the most part, this little strategy, oddly enough, very hard to beat. The only really weak point here is Flute's Dragon. That's only if you kill it, and I have 4 of these in the deck for that reason. So it's more of a matter of just like, how much do you want to beef up Mr. Bat? That's all it really comes down to when you're going with this. So, I mean, that's not the only way to put mystery counters is Reiya. That's definitely not, but a lot of people keep telling me in this deck to put more mystery counter generators on here, and that's not the reason why I run water. So, like, get out of here for that instance. But I do have some. I do think there are some good ones. But let's move on to the rest of the deck, shall we? So as you can see right here, one of our 2 cards that we have in this deck is Moon in the Mist. It is actually kind of a hard card to get in Ancient Knights, I would say. But that's not the reason why I run 2. The main reason why I run 2 is because it's a 4 cost, which is actually quite beefy for this deck. The highest costing card is a 4 cost. For the most part, it just goes to to like one cost mostly. It's a vast majority one cost deck. Very cheap to manage, very easy to get your stones out and whatnot. But for the most part, you're not running it because it destroys target Resonator. You're running it because it puts a mystery counter on your J roller. That's the biggest reason why you run this card. Although thankfully enough, it is a quick cast, so it does have some utility in it and whatnot. And sometimes you do just want to kill target Resonator that you can't actually like go out and get. But we have plenty of those Resonator hate as it is with this deck. This is a very just like, let's get Resonators out of the field as soon as possible type of deck. So for the most part, you shouldn't be really running this in a sort of sense that like you need to, but rather you want to get that mystery counter more than anything else. But it does come in handy, as most destroy target Resonator cards do. But that's not the one that you really want to use. Now, here we get to the actual full mystery counter set here that I have going for myself. This one's probably going to be the least used mystery counter user in this entire deck. She is from the starter deck, and the main reason we actually use her is because Fairy Tale. We use her because she's a Fairy Tale and uses mystery counters. That actually combos heavily with the rest of our deck here, or rather I'll show you the rest of the deck that shows up and then you'll see. But for the most part here, just having the ability to let her gain plus 200 at precision until end of turn really does help. You'd be very surprised when you could just buff her out just randomly and just get rid of a threat right away and just like get rid of her. Of course, her pasties right there aren't exactly helping with our little showcase, but that's not really the point here now, is it? Now let's move on to this card, which is your main user of the mystery counters. And the reason why I say that is because you discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand if you do it this way. And it's a 1 cost, very lovely. And with the way Reiya does it now, she is more likely to get rid of your opponent's starting hand in the very beginning, which gives you a tremendous lead. And that's what you kind of want to do with this deck. You want to get a lead in the start and then slowly build up your bat, or try to like just kill them with flying Resonators and whatnot. That's your overall objective, but I wouldn't say that's your exact win condition. Because Dark Knight Butterfly only helps so much, and if you're facing another blue deck, then screw it. You don't get the chance to really have a card advantage. But it's still very nice to have. I do also run an alternative card for this card in particular, because sometimes just discarding cards, not enough to actually stop your opponent. And here's another another Resonator hate. I keep saying J Resonator on accident, and it isn't. But blah, blah, blah. Sort of the New Moon. This one's a very interesting utility destroy Resonator card, because it could kill a Resonator of 1 or less, so that includes tokens and various other 1-drops that you have at you, including the bat. So if you're facing a deck similar to this, you could kill the bat off with that, and yeah, plenty of hate for it, so that's always good. But just having the ability to kill a total cost of 4 or less, if you really need to, in a crutch, it can really help, and you should be having at least 3 to 2 mystery counters at all times if you got your Flute Dragon up and nothing went wrong. You really shouldn't have to be stingy with the mystery counters in your deck this way. It's only a matter of beefing up the bat, in all honesty. So you just got to keep the mystery counters as low as possible, but this does help early game, and it could possibly come in clutch at end game too, depending on if they run like tokens or various things like that and such, you know? And here we have our little wild card here. The main reason why I put this card in was because it was Fairy Tale. And because I really like Dark Riding Hood, and I wanted her in a deck. And I just like, I need this so much. But having her have all these like things, just look how much she has. Look at that wall of text here, if I could just focus it. This card gains, whenever this card deals damage to a Resonator, destroy that Resonator as long as your life is 2,000 or less. This card gains swiftness as long as your life is 1,000 or less. Whenever this card attacks, it deals 200 damage to target player or Resonator. You gain 200 life. The biggest reason why we have Dark Riding Hood, y'all, is to save our butt at the end of the game. Because sometimes things don't go as planned. And she has a lot of utility at the end game more than anything else. and that's what we need. She even has a mystery counter effect, which I kind of glanced over. When this card enters the field, you may remove 2 mystery counters from your J Ruler. If you do remove target Resonator from game, you'd be surprised how much you could just screw people's plans with Dark Riding Hood. You really would be. And it really helps that she actually removes the Resonator from game, because sometimes they come back from the grave. So that's always a bad thing to see. But surprisingly enough, Dark Riding Hood really fits in this deck, and she helps combo well with the next card we're going into. Because, as I said before, we're using Fairy Tales for a reason. And why? Because it's your boy Grim. Yeah, boy. I actually got the promo for this card, so I'm so happy that I actually got it. But this guy is devastating. He is a 4-cost, which is fair, but he's also a vampire / fairy tale. And if you read his card, the little activation card thing, I had 2 little darkness things. That's fine, whatever. Trust me, later on down the road, you're not going to be using your mana. So this is perfectly spammable in late mid-game and late game. Which I know sounds weird to a lot of people, but yeah, there's that. It could keep going to that. But this right here, J Resonator, your opponent controls gains -X/-X. Now look at that. It says J Resonator, so it can target 0. It goes past barrier. It's lovely. And I need it, and you need it to control all the elves that are coming in to play and just trying to destroy you. Yes, I did literally make this deck with my elf deck in mind, and also another player's deck that I play every now and again is in mind. But for the most part, you are going to be just not really trying to beef him up, but he's kind of your like silent killer type of situation here, and he really does help mid-game, because that's when he's going to show up. He's going to show up mid-game. Shit, you're not going to use an Energizer on him unless you're really facing a Rushdown Ferris Command deck, which I have faced before. Did not end pretty. So I may have to figure out ways to get rid of that Rush Command. And I'm well aware of it, people. I'm well aware of it. But you gotta remember, Rush decks are not something that I go up against very often, and I don't know how to deal with them so much. So at least this deck could handle it a bit. But let's get on to his other effect here. Put target Resonator from your graveyard into your hand. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that just a lovely, lovely effect that he has going for himself? He can literally get himself back from the grave and then do it again and get another Resonator back from the grave. And it really does help every now and again, because sometimes your Flute Dragons go bye-bye and you're like, oh, I want my Flute Dragon back, and you get it by that effect. So it's always nice. But for the most part, because of that Fairy Tale effect, you will be able to get a decent amount off there, like killing the Resonators and whatnot. You're not always going to have 3 Fairy Tale Resonators, if not more. Most likely it's going to be just like 2 Fairy Tale Resonators that you have on the fields, because that's the way life goes. But it's still lovely to have, in all honesty, this little option. And it does help yourself later on in game, because for the most part, you're going to want to end games mid-game and not late game, but you still have some late game surprises. They're not a lot, but they're there. They're there to help you just in case games actually do run that long, because you never know. And I try to always go for whatever the case may be, because I'm always scared of every bloody option that I could have. Next thing we have here is our lovely little chants that are in blue. This is the other reason why we run blue in particular, folks, because a Key's Call and Spinning Aqua Soul. Very amazing card, by the way. I really underestimated this card's ability just to ruin people, but it does ruin people, and it's so lovely. And then we also have Flute's Awakening as kind of like a dummy card, because draw a card is always nice. But for the most part, this is the kind of card you're going to want to be switching out for your side deck. And then we also have the ever so lovely, ever so amazing Shayla's Foresight. Unfortunately, because our ruler isn't Shayla, we only get 1 out of the 3 effects that we could get out of the 4 possible effects that are amazing. And the biggest reason why I put this in was just in case we ran into some sort of mill or it got that long or something. I'm not joking. That's seriously the reason why I did it. There's only 2 of them, so I think it's super crazy. If you're really not scared of that, or you like the ability to, put a target addition or target attacking Resonator on top. That's also very, very good. And you could also just go ahead and draw a card if you really, really needed to. That's the reason why I mainly have this card in the deck, why I don't run forward then, because I'm not Shayla. But it's still a very amazing card, very good for your options. And it's a quick cast too, so it always just pulls through and just ruins people. But the other card we have here is Key's Call. A lot of people love this card. I understand why they could love this card, but honestly, you're not going to be using it as much as you think unless your opponent has some target automatic abilities. Because honestly, like, in my fields, you don't get them. It's just weird. I don't know why that is. But it does help on occasion, as per usual. And it's still a very good card to have, so that's why I run 2 of them. And of course, if you face like a Fox or any other deck that's like, let's cancel target automatic ability, you know, like we really need that right now. You also could just replace your Flute's Awakening with the Key's Call, because I do have them in the side deck. I'm well aware of how good this card is. I'm just saying it really does depend on the decks that you're actually facing, and honestly, sometimes this card could just be in your hand forever. And you're just like, okay, I'm screwed. Then, of course, we have here the side deck. I do not know what this would mainly go in for an actual side deck, because I will tell y'all, not been to any actual tournaments for the most part, so I'm not exactly sure what I should prep for. I mainly prep for the decks that I've faced before, and that is what I plan to continue on to do, because honestly, that's all I could really do. I mean, you can only play your local scene for so long, and then go into GOP, and then you finally understand the meta of that little side. Which, I'll admit, I'm a big fish in a little pond, if anything. And even then, shoot. But the main reason why we have this card right here, Truth Among Darkness, is because sometimes, as I said before, discarding a card is not good enough. So you need to actually look at your opponent's hand and then remove a card from the game. This has helped me before. I've gotten rid of Captain Hook before he could kill me. Or at least wound me badly. And it would have sucked hard. It would have sucked way hard. So just imagine that happening, and then also having Remnant. Very, very good way to take down your opponent's card without even realizing that, like, oh, I could actually take away 2 cards, like one and then after another on the next turn. Or if you really have the mana to use, because just putting this card in your deck, not too bad. I mean, card removal is a very important strategy, in all honesty, and something that I think a lot of people overlook, but I understand why they don't really make a deck out of it, because it's still a very unreliable way to go about things, just ruining your opponent's plan and not having your own. So yeah. Then we also have here a weird addition to this, Cleansing Rain. Now, y'all may be wondering why I have this card in my side deck. That is because I face Shayla decks. And if you don't know what a Shayla control deck is, it's basically using Shayla's Foresight to put everything on the top of your deck, as well as using this card to put everything on the top of your deck. And then you use the Spinning Arsenal to just go ahead and return target chant back. And then Shayla's Foresight makes sure you never deck out. It's annoying. It's an incredible combo that's super annoying, and I hate it. I love it too, because that makes Shayla viable, but it's still so annoying. So yes, I face Shayla decks, and I figured this would be a good way to actually take down the Shayla deck. Oddly enough, I faced the Shayla deck without using this card, so I'm probably going to swap it out soonish, because who's going to actually run Rain, in all honesty? But I just figure I mentioned that for the second fact that, hey, you know, these are the decks I face and how I have to deal with it. Now this right here is Key's Call. It's the other 2 to the pair. Like I said before, in case you need 4 of them, because not every deck runs automatic abilities. It just doesn't always happen. It's cool when it does, because then you're like, boom, baby, get rid of that. And they just get rid of that Captain Hook's little dealio. But it don't always happen, so sometimes you just kind of have to keep yourself the way it is. And then, of course, we have just a random Shayla's Water Transformation magic. It's a good card. It's a target. Resonator loses all abilities because of 4/4 bear until end of turn. It's cool. It's nice. I honestly don't think it'd really help too much of this deck, but I might get 3 more of them and actually start running a set in my side deck. But for the most part, this is how I have my deck made. It is a very, very budgeted deck, just so you all know. You can pretty much get every card here except for Dark Riding Hood. She is a very expensive card in comparison, but everything else here is very inexpensive. You just need like a starter deck and, just a few good pulls from Ancient Knights, in all honesty. But for the most part, this is how I have my deck. And I just wanted to show it to you all mainly because it is a very budgeted deck that has a nifty little thing to it that not a lot of people actually use for mystery counters. And I feel like they're really sleeping on the bat here. Like, honestly, the bat is surprisingly amazing with this deck. And you'd be surprised how easy it is to actually buff it up when your opponent leaves you alone to just buff it up. And they're going to start realizing, hey, got to get rid of that water dragon as soon as I can. But there you go. There is Shayla's mystery buff. Ain't she a lovely creature? Thank you all for watching, and if you liked it, please share. Till next time, everybody. Sayonara. Bye-bye.